This portion of the John Fredericks Show is brought to you by Hargrave Military Academy. Attend an educational and informative open house event at Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia. For more information, visit online at hargrave.edu. Hargrave Military Academy. Build his future.
Joining us now is Virginia businessman and entrepreneur Pete Snyder. He ran for lieutenant governor in 2013, came in second to E.W. Jackson at the May 18th convention. He is also the co-chair of the Ken Cuccinelli for Governor campaign. Pete, great to have you back with us.
Johnny F., good to be back with you. How you doing, my friend?
I tell you, we're doing fine. Me and Ken Johnson down here in the Big N, holding the fort in Hampton Roads. And hey, I want to get to the Bob McDonnell situation. Now, Pete, I am probably the last defender of Bob McDonnell on the face of the earth. I don't think he should resign because the facts aren't out, and I don't see where he's broken any laws. However, polls are starting to show it's a little bit of a drag on the Republican ticket. What say you?
You know, look, I think that I think these allegations are troubling. I think they're disappointing to every Virginian. I hope, just like I think almost any other Virginian hopes, that these are untrue, and certainly the governor will have the opportunity to disprove these allegations. You know, I do think that in the future, I think reform is needed in Virginia. I do think that the General Assembly should be looking at tightening up those gift laws. But overall, you know, I hear pundits, and it's very clear Terry McAuliffe thinks that he has something going on here, and that it could be advantageous to his campaign. But, you know, John, you've been to a lot of rodeos in your life.
Yes.
I got to tell you, if this campaign, the number one issue, comes down to ethics and who do you trust, Ken Cuccinelli or the guy who sold out the Lincoln bedroom, who sold rides on Air Force One, who is a used car salesman in chief, hands down this election is going to Ken Cuccinelli, without a doubt. So, you know, if you're Terry McAuliffe, be careful what you wish for in trying to play the trust and ethics card, because Ken Cuccinelli is about as straight-laced as they get, and you're just dealing with damaged goods when you're dealing with Terry McAuliffe.
Well, even former President Bill Clinton, Pete, said that he wouldn't buy a pre-owned vehicle from Terry McAuliffe.
That's right,
I mean,
John.
What's that tell you?
Is that right? Imagine if your best friend or self-described best friend in the world says that they wouldn't buy a used car from you. Yeah, I think this is dangerous territory for Terry. And I got to tell you, for you and your listeners who paid attention to the debate this past weekend at the Homestead, you know, I try to call it like I see him and
yes,
not be too much of a cheerleader and on any one side. But, you know, I thought Terry did fine for quite a period of time in that debate until he just could not help himself. And he had to lie. He had to stretch the truth and say that report, the ethics report, you know, implicated Ken Cuccinelli, and he blew the whole darn thing. Up until that point, I think he was doing fine. Now, you know, my boxing scorecard had advantage Cuccinelli. I thought Ken did a terrific job, and, you know, would love to see many, many more debates. But, you know, Terry just couldn't help himself. He was doing well, and he couldn't help himself. He had to stretch the truth. He had to exaggerate. He had to fib. And that's why he's not going to be the next governor of Virginia. He simply can't help himself. He's not trustworthy.
Well, even the other, you know, he made another comment there that I personally took issue with. I thought it was laughable. And when we get him on our show, I'm going to ask him this point blank. He said, you know, I've never been for raising taxes. And it's like, excuse me, you were the biggest cheerleader for Obamacare, which our Supreme Court Justice Roberts said is a tax. This is the biggest tax increase in the history of the Republic. How do you reconcile that comment?
Well, he has a 30, 40-year record on championing tax increases. I mean, remember, you know, Bill Clinton kicked off his first term in pushing for a huge tax increase.
That's right.
Which really had his coalition fall apart. Terry McAuliffe was part and parcel to that. So, there have been a number of tax increases over the years that Terry McAuliffe has supported. He was the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. He was co-chair for quite a period of time. When you're chairing, you're part and parcel to those activities being pushed and flanks and your platform being pushed by your party. And, it just will not jive well with where Virginians are, period.
When we had you on a couple of weeks ago, you said something that has really stuck with me. You said, Terry McAuliffe is one of the best fundraisers in the history of the world. And why not just campaign on that? Say, hey, I can raise funds. I can get money into Virginia. Instead, he keeps talking about these so-called jobs that he created with these companies. I call it the Great Ruse because there are no jobs at Franklin Pellets or Green Tech. I don't care if the company is in Southwest Virginia or Mississippi. There's simply no jobs there. So I can't for the life of me understand why they just don't drop that.
John, I think they're actually trying to, if I'm reading the tea leaves right on what's coming out of the McAuliffe campaign, I think they're trying to move away from those great fibs and exaggerations. Earlier in my campaign, I was out in Danville and in Southside Virginia, and I was with a really dynamic young city councilman, Lee Vogler, there, and he took me on a tour. He took me on a tour of the area that would have been perfect that they had offered up to Terry McAuliffe and his Green Tech company, and we talked at length about the jobs that would be desperately needed in Danville and the South Side area and what that would do for the economic base there. And we ended up making an ad about it. And, Terry McAuliffe does what's always in the best interest of Terry. And he got a sweetheart deal from the state of Mississippi, and he decided to take all of those manufacturing jobs, which actually didn't turn out to be many, but the promise of hundreds, if not thousands, of manufacturing jobs, and took it to Mississippi. Why? Because it benefited Terry's pocketbook better. So, the Franklin Pellets Company turned out to be an absolute joke. But I think they're pivoting, John, because if you listen to the rhetoric coming out of Terry and the advertising that he's doing, he seems to center in on a lemonade stand, and if I have this correct, like driveway sweeping, driveway shoveling business that he had when he's 14. So they're making the highlight of this guy's career, who's mid-50s, knocking on the door of 60, that he peaked when he's 14 years old as a businessman. Imagine that.
As an entrepreneur, that's why that would be like me going back and saying, "Hey, the highlight of my career was when I had that Newark Star Ledger paper route when I was 13. I made big dollars in that."
From what I understand,
I was good, man. I could toss those papers. That's how I got through the day.
And you contrast that with Ken Cuccinelli, who is a man of great principle, who spent his entire life focused on the Commonwealth, focused on serving the Commonwealth, knows the state inside and out. And the great thing about Ken is you don't have to agree with him 100% of the time. I mean, I don't know anyone that I've ever worked in business and or in that served in government or in politics that you agree with 100% of the time. But even Democrats will say, you know what, one of the things that they like about Ken Cuccinelli is that they know where he stands. And he doesn't try to pull one over on you. And in certain things you can agree, disagree. I think if you agree with anyone 100%, you probably need your head examined. But Ken Cuccinelli is a principled, no-nonsense leader who, he and I talk at length about what is needed for the economy of Virginia, what policies are needed, what economic policies are needed, what tax relief policies are needed, what we need to do to reform the education system and actually provide school choice in Virginia. Those are the issues that really, really matter. And head and shoulders above Terry McAuliffe is Ken Cuccinelli.
Now, Pete, one of the things that you're doing for the Cuccinelli campaign, you're the co-chair of the finance committee. You're also a prolific fundraiser in your own right for the things that you believe in. Are you guys going to have enough campaign cash on hand to be competitive in this race?
Absolutely, John, but we need your listeners' help. If anyone who's listening out there is just starting to engage in this governor's race, we need you, I need you, Ken needs you to go to kencuccinelli.com, donate today. We have all the liberal interests in the country, from George Soros to the unions to every single liberal special interest group out there. Terry McAuliffe is shaking them, turning them upside down, shaking their pockets, shaking their wallets to fund really what he hopes is, planting a first flag in the Hillary for President campaign. So we need the help of all Virginians and independents and Republicans and conservatives and conservative Democrats from across the country. So I urge you to go to kencuccinelli.com today, make a donation, help get some fuel in the fire. We will be very, very competitive in this race, but we need your help. And the great thing about Ken is he is the best grassroots campaigner that I've ever seen in Virginia in several decades, and probably it might go down as one of the best grassroots campaigners ever in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So this is a truly grassroots campaign, but we need your help and your support. So go to kencuccinelli.com today and make a donation and keep us running here. And we got to be keeping Terry McAuliffe honest. Left to his own devices, he's going to stretch the truth. He's going to shuck and jive. And just like your radio program, John, the citizens of Virginia need some real straight talk right now.
We all know that McAuliffe is going to go negative. He went negative in 2009 when he was trying to become the Democratic nominee in that primary, and that really backfired on him. He's going to go negative now. How do you think that's going to play out?
I think it's a flawed strategy. If I were Terry McAuliffe, I would be trying to, inspire and engage all of the Obama coalition and independents out there, and some Republicans, and say, hey, look, here are my ideas. Here's how I'm going to move Virginia forward, and get them on board. I mean, what they're dealing with is a drop-off from a 70% turnout in an Obama in a presidential year to usually what's probably about 40% turnout in off-year elections. And by running a nasty gutter-style campaign, that's only going to suppress turnout, which isn't to Terry McAuliffe's advantage. So, I think it's a flawed strategy. The problem is in the product. And this is one of these odd things in politics, John, where, and you've seen this up close and personal, it's funny. The more you get Ken Cuccinelli in living rooms and in kitchens of people or in community centers meeting Virginians, the more people he touches and the more people that listen and hear what Ken Cuccinelli has to say, the more they like. It's the exact opposite of Terry McAuliffe. The more he touches average Virginians and citizens out there, the more they dislike him. The best thing that the McAuliffe campaign could do is send this guy to Martha's Vineyard until election day. Send him out of the country. Have him do whatever he does, and he may have a shot of trying to pull this thing off. But the more he's out there on the trail, because there's just something that's not genuine about him. It's that used car salesman feeling, and that's to their disadvantage.
There was a lot of people like myself extraordinarily impressed with your race for lieutenant governor, basically where you came as an unknown, an outsider from nowhere, and came very, very close to being the nominee. What is the political future in Virginia for Pete Snyder?
The political future is I want to be the best darn co-chair of a finance campaign that Virginia's ever seen, help get my friend and a great principled leader, Ken Cuccinelli, elected as our next governor. That is where I have my sights set on right now. And you know, as you know, I'm an entrepreneur, and while the economy is still not great out there, this really is a golden age of entrepreneurship in America. I mean, the disruption that's happening in so many different industries out there is truly exciting. And one thing that's going on, actually, the only thing that I think Congress and the Obama administration did well is this Jobs Act, which is now going to unleash the power of the Internet on equity-based financing. So basically allow for what's called crowdfunding. If you've ever heard of something called Kickstarter on the kind of art side of things, average Americans are now going to be able to take equity positions in private companies, and it's really going to fuel, I think, a resurgence in our cities and in small business. So there's some tremendous business opportunities to really democratize entrepreneurship that really get me fired up. But, John, as you know, I'm not a guy for the sidelines. We need to make sure that we elect our entire Republican ticket and Ken Cuccinelli, and I'm going to be firing up the pig rig and getting that out there and helping our entire team, and we're going to get them over the finish line.
Okay, let's fire that pig rig up, Pete, and get it right back. Pete, we're going to give you one more shot to call for donations. Where do people go?
www.kencuccinelli.com. Go, and if you mess up the spelling, just hit the Google machine. It will correct you. Go to Ken's website. Make a donation there. And then also, if you want to host a fundraiser, if you want to talk about doing something in your community, I'm a pretty open access guy. Your listeners can email me at pete@petesnyder.com, and we'll see if we can get something going on in your community. We really need to make sure that the grassroots are engaged out there knocking doors and spreading the message on Facebook and to their friends and their communities and the supermarkets out there. But also, pull your neighbors together and let's actually crowdfund this campaign. We got to compete with the liberal special interests, and we need your financial help to do it as well. So feel free to zap me a note at pete@petesnyder.com, and we'll see if we can get something going on in your community. We'd love your financial help when we need your support at the ballot box.
Okay, that's the final word. Email Pete at petesnyder.com. Pete, we want to thank you for being with us, and thank you for your excellent work with the Cuccinelli for Governor campaign. We'll have you back.